We value freedom so much, but freedom is getting your kids addicted to social media. Something that I think has made one of the biggest differences when it comes to our kids, and that is social media. In Australia, they have banned social media for kids under 16.
Wow.
So let's take a look at this.
A new poll shows nearly 60% of U.S. voters want a social media ban for children in the country, modeled after Australia's first of its kind law passed last month. Our next guest has been studying the effects of social media on children for years. Social psychologist, NYU professor, and author of The Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt joins me now. Jonathan, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. So 60% of people say they do support a ban on social media for children. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's fantastic, and it's actually kind of obvious. You know, in the real world, we don't let kids do everything that adults can do, especially if it's exposing them to graphic sexuality, graphic violence, addiction, or physical or mental harm. We have age limits. Except if it's on social media. When you let your kid open an account on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok, they're going to be exposed to incredibly graphic sex, violence. They're going to become addicted, 10% of them or 20. And they're going to be exposed to things that are physically dangerous for them, TikTok challenges, things like that. So I'm thrilled. It's about time. We need to get an age limit in the US too.
So the CDC recently came out with a study, and it found that 15% of children ages 12 to 17 have anxiety, 9% have depression, and 7.5% have behavioral disorders. I mean, these are kids 12, 13, 14. This should be the most carefree time of their lives. Do you think that these numbers are a result of the increase in social media use among children?
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, many studies show that the rates are much, much higher than that, closer to 30 or 40% for girls especially.
Yeah.
And there is good evidence that social media is a major cause. We can't say it's the only cause, but the fact that the kids themselves say it, the kids point to social media as a cause. The parents point to social media as a cause. The memos from inside the companies, we now have a lot of, thanks to lawsuits, we now have a lot of memos from inside these companies. They know they are trying to addict kids. They know that
they're trying to addict kids.
Snapchat gets 10,000 reports of sextortion, not a year, a month, every month. So kids are being harmed at an industrial scale. And we do know that when you go off of social media for a couple of weeks, your rate of depression and anxiety goes down. So yes, there is good evidence that social media is a contributor.
And especially among young girls. I mean, there's so much comparison out there, looking at images and then looking at yourself and just feeling bad about yourself when they're little and beautiful and they're just getting these images that, you know, completely put their mind in a place where it shouldn't be. So I mentioned that Australia passed this social media ban, and there are states in the country, and it goes both ways when it comes to Republican-controlled states and Democrat-controlled states, from Florida to California, that are interested in cracking down on social media in certain ways. Do you think that that's the solution, the federal government or the state government stepping in and putting bans in place, or should this be something that happens at home? What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you know, in America, we generally think that the parents should be the principal deciders of this. But here's the thing. We're all trying. We are trying, but we can't keep our kids off unless you can keep your kid away from the internet. Because the way it's set up now, if your kid can get to a web browser, they can sign a contract with any of these companies, open an account, you'll never know, and the company will take their data, expose them to harmful things, and they don't need your permission. So Florida and many other states, and you're right, it's completely bipartisan because Republicans and Democrats, we all have kids. So it's completely bipartisan. For the most part, I want parents to be able to decide what they do, but we need help. Just like we can't be the ones who keep our kids out of liquor stores. We have to have the company checking ages. So yes, we need it. Parents want it. Australia's showing it can be done. Yeah. There's really no reason not to do this.
Yeah, you're right. Politics is second when it comes to things like this. Parents are parents first, and we all love our children and need to protect them. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us. Very important topic. We appreciate you and your work.
My pleasure, Carly.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Yes.
What do you think? How do you feel about that?
I agree.
Do you think? You think that's the way to do it? Is to pass a law that says that social media should be illegal for kids under 16?
Well, I feel that it begins in the home, right? You and I have, I see a difference in Adriana, and she sees a difference when she talks to me about her kid or about her friends.
Yeah.
And social media, she talks about it.
We've had Audrey on the podcast if you guys want to go back and look. And I did a clip about social media. I think it was one of the times you had COVID or you were sick. And I was asking her some of those questions about the differences between her and her friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so I feel that it blows my mind hearing us parents need help. You know what I'm saying?
When he said that,
yeah.
or he said something like they're trying.
Right.
What did you think when he said that?
I'm like, what are you talking about? They're trying. Like, who's the parent? I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah.
What are you trying?
It's like, you know, you don't have control. It's like not having control of
your household.
Yeah.
Your kids, like what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough because in a way, like I when I first saw the band, and I'm like, oh, awesome.
Right.
You know, like awesome. That's great that they're thinking about this type of stuff. Like this shit's bad for kids. They should put a ban on it. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about freedom earlier.
Well, that's not the kind of freedom I was talking about, but you're talking about the freedom of choice. But at that age, I mean, they're still developing.
Right. Yeah. No, and I agree with the guy was saying. He's like, we have laws to keep kids out of liquor stores. Right. You know, and yeah, like we don't fully understand the effects of this stuff yet.
And this is crazy. It's a bit of a cop-out, but when the parent can say no more social media, it's against the rules. It's against the law.
I watched a different video. One of the videos that I was watching was saying something like that. Like the mom is going to tell the kid, hey, you're not supposed to be on the phone. That's illegal or something like that.
Yeah.
That
because
seems fucking...
it takes them out of the picture of being the bad guy.
Yeah, like you're saying it's a cop-out.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is a freaking like, dude, I don't know. You know, one thing I do know is, I mean, social media is illegal in this house. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not, but it is. Yeah. Neither one of our kids have social media, and our daughter's going to turn 16. And this is great because you have this social media ban now in Australia. Mm-hmm. Our daughter's going to turn 16, and it's a talk that we're going to have that we need. Like, we've already started talking to the kids about like social media, and they don't seem to miss it.
Adriana doesn't seem to.
Joey doesn't really ask for it. Audrey doesn't really ask for it either.
Because it's not a thing in our house.
And, you know, they were also talking about, well, this is just going to make kids go and do it behind your back. Like do it. They're going to figure out other ways. As long as they have access to a browser, they're going to be able to do what. And then the other video that I was watching was also talking. It starts getting kind of like into other things. How do you verify a kid's age? Do you have to upload a passport? And then what?
Yeah.
You know, like it gets complicated.
Right.
But yeah, like you were saying with the guy, we tried, or parents are trying.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Get control of your house.
Well, this is what happens. What happens is, so think about this. They're little, you're shopping, you're at a restaurant.
That is a big one. Yep.
And in order to keep the kid.
And do what you got to do.
You give them a phone. You give them something to entertain themselves. And this becomes the thing. This becomes the numbing or the calm the kid down tactic. Right. And so they're doing it selfishly. Is that how you sound? For themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it becomes a thing. Then the kid gets a phone, right? 2 years, 3 years old.
Yeah.
Kid gets a phone. This gives the parent the time to do whatever they're doing. They're watching their show. They go from watching the show to watching, you know, to getting on, you know,
YouTube,
social media. It's just all these things, and it becomes a thing. And then the kid gets to a certain age where they have their own social media, right? Now they're not going on the mom's.
Yeah, now they got their own phone.
And it's been this way from the beginning. And now the parent starts to see that the child is not coming out of its room. The child is always on its phone constantly. And then it becomes an issue. And then the parents decide, oh, this isn't a good thing. And then they try to take it away from them after they've been allowing them to do it from the beginning. Now they're getting all this pushback, all this resistance, all of it.
Yeah, and all the kids have it.
You know?
You know, how come you taking it away from me when
No,
Yeah.
you do it.
right?
I've been having a phone. So why is it now an issue?
Yeah.
But even then, you can take control. It's just a little more difficult.
It's harder.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like if we didn't find out Adriana had celiac until she was 13, and for 13 years she's been eating gluten, hamburgers, and
having trouble
strawberry,
and,
spaghetti, right? But because we found out when she was 2 years old,
Yeah.
it wasn't even a thing. It's not right.
Yeah, because she's never had it, and not only has she never had it, but she can see the effect that it has on her friends. She can see her friends on social media
Mm-hmm.
and how they react to certain things, and yeah,
And the lack of communication, you right?
And-
Like she talks about it, the lack
Yeah.
of communication. Oh, we're over here, eating at a restaurant, and they're on their phone, and she's just like, "What's going on here?" Right? But her friends are pretty aware, But she mentions it in other kids. But her friends don't seem to be that. Like when they hang out, they hang out. They're not
Yeah.
like
yeah.
at their.
Well, they attract similar kids,
Right.
to each other.
Do you remember we were in California and we were eating at that taco place?
Yeah,
With the yummy tacos, there were these teenagers, maybe young 20s, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
in front of us. They were all on their phones.
they
There
were
was,
like talking to
five
each
of
other
them.
while they were looking at their phones.
Yes. And
That was weird. Yeah.
it was sad.
And then it's when they were kind of interacting, they were showing each other stuff on their phones.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does that lead to? Think about that. Like, think about the bigger picture.
The guy mentions it in the video. Like, they are trying to get kids addicted. And we had a guy on this podcast, Isaiah McPeak. If you guys go back and look at it, it was he was one of the founders of Pinwheel, which is a kid's phone. And he was talking about it's like having a slot machine on your phone. Like, they are trying to make these things as addictive as possible. And one thing that I've thought about is, what is it that makes the social medias so powerful? What is the one thing that makes them so powerful? They all have it.
Mm.
It's the algorithm,
Why does that make it powerful?
because it's learning who you are and it's giving you
Oh,
more
I see what you're
of
saying.
what
Okay.
you want to watch or what it thinks you want to watch.
Dude, no, for real.
Our son plays with Rubik's Cubes.
Mm-hmm.
And when he needs to move pieces around, what does he use? An
So
algorithm. And what
Makes
is
him, like,
what
learn.
is an algorithm? What does he do with the algorithm to the Rubik's Cube?
Manipulates it.
He manipulates it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that is the biggest thing that these social media companies have,
Right.
is their algorithm
Mm-hmm.
and how powerful that algorithm is. What does that algorithm do? It manipulates. It manipulates you.
To buy the new thing, to get the new thing, to all these things. It's crazy. And that's why TikTok was created in China. China. And how are they? Do they allow their
They don't even allow they don't have the same version of TikTok
Isn't
that we have.
crazy?
But they're
Like-
they're not a free country.
But why do you think that is?
And I think they've had a ban.
Mm-hmm.
Like Australia is they've had a ban on TikTok.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? Come on, people. It's time to wake up. Like, this is the thing. And that's just
But-
one. That's social media.
It's just so hard because
Right?
that's not how we want to live, because we value freedom so much.
right.
But shit, freedom is getting your kids addicted to social media.